Hey guys, D87 here, and I'm coming to you now with a video of the pin combinations that I was going to continue. I did do a video a while back about it, but since then I have thought of one or two new things. There are some combinations that I will want to show you. I'm just going to pull out some of the cards now that I will be needing to show you, but yeah, basically, like a lot of after some testing, I seem to have noticed there was a few things that originally I didn't realise, should I say, and then out of nowhere it has just come to my attention, and yeah, some of the combinations are pretty nice. I will admit that. So it all depends really on how you play the deck. Depending on how you play the deck, you will want to try these combinations out. If you haven't already, but yeah, let's put those there for now. Right, so yeah, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna select the cards from the deck, sort of thing. Right, so for instance now, I'm just gonna use Luck because she's my Vanguard, obviously. So these combinations I've figured out while using this deck. Right, you obviously will have to have that in the soul. You will need that in the soul at some point for this sort of combination to happen. And where's the other one? The critical trigger. Okay. Now I'm not going to put the counter blasts there, okay? I'm just going to basically leave it there. But imagine, for instance now, okay, you have got her here, okay, and you've got any unit you want, okay? Say that unit's there for now, okay? One thing you can do is Magician Quantum Mechanics. Quantum Mechanics, you basically can't blast one. Okay, so you can't blast one to bring out anything from the soul, and then the end of the turn it swaps back. So what you can do each turn is you can send it to the soul and bring it out to Trapezist. Okay, so remember now 3k, so that's 19. Trapezist is not going to get its skill, which means then you can send that into the soul, bring out the critical trigger. So that's another 3k. That she gains. Now afterwards you can say now for instance you've got an Alice there, you can simply send that to the soul, gain 3k. You can use that to any unit. It's a nice little combo because the thing is, what happens is you put it into the soul, and then at the end of the turn you simply put it into the soul and that comes back out. What I like about it is that by doing that, obviously you need to put something into the soul each turn, but what you can do as well for 2 counter blasts there is you can send any 2 cards from your hand to the soul for the limit break, because it means then that later on, after using 2 of the counter blasts, if you've healed, you can even do it again if you wanted to. But if you've got the counter blasts free, you can do that. You can add anything into the soul to get that critical, then put it back in to gain 3k to any unit you want. And then at the end phase comes up. But the thing is next turn then you can do that, and you can do it again and again and again. And then all it does is basically it builds your soul up, so you can do the limit break if you like using her limit break all the time. It's a good way to build the soul up, and it's especially because you control what you put in the soul, which is pretty good. Another combo that I do tend to like was when you've got that there. Of course, it is a little bit of a cost. Okay, this might cost you up to 2 counter blasts if you get it off. But basically, if you've got that sort of field, you can't blast one for that, send it to the soul, bring out Glenn. And Glenn obviously gets her skill, she gains 3k, which makes that a 20. I've never used her because of the fact that she'd never hit 20, but with that effect, you do kind of get it. I do want to use Farah in set 9, and I think Alice might actually be my preferred choice for the rearguard grade 3, just due to the fact that I can bring that out and she will not have the 7, she'll have the 6k boost as well, which means she'll be 13, so that'll be 23. That'll hit a cross ride, and that is very good. So straight away I'm considering using that for the deck. So there are a few things you can do. I mean, you can also, for instance, if you've already got something behind this, you can always use the skill of Quantum Mechanics to bring out the Puppet Trapezist, and you can always do that and then back out as well the following time. So the thing is, the one that Trapezist brings out, it will always stay there, but of course at the end phase she'll go back and you'll get quantum mechanics again. But what you can do, and this, because here's the thing now, by having this sort of setup, it means every turn by a single counter blast, you can do that, and you send that in, bring it straight back out, and that's a 22 and a 20. Pretty strong. It's a good little thing to do each turn. Because the thing is, with Supreme Resist, you can just send anything you want into Soul and bring that unit straight back out. Not everybody seems to notice that, and people do question whether you can do it. But the effect is, you send one unit in, then you bring one unit out. It doesn't say you can't bring the same unit out at all, so you can do that. The only other one that I really like personally is when you've got the girl who crossed the gap there, and you have got, I probably have shown this in the older video, but I'm just going to remind you guys about it. This is one that people just laugh at when I do it. If you've got 5 counter blasts, you basically counter blast for her, so she goes into the Soul, and you bring out a Trapezis from there. Then you start Trapezis. Trapezis can send to itself. Well, it can send another one of itself back into the Soul, but it can't bring one out. If you can do that, it would be a loop that would not stop unless you wanted it to. Okay, so for one counter blast there, she's gained 6k, and then you can counter blast another 4 times if you wanted to. So you had 5 counter blasts. That's 30k boost to her. Then if you have a critical twice, if you had that coming out like last, so that was the 30k. Then you could add that to make it 33. And then you could call out, I don't know, say, what can you put out? Oh right, turquoise. You put turquoise there. So that is then going to be 30k plus the 3k, so that's 33. So 43 plus 5 plus the 9 makes it 52. Yeah. I don't think many people guard that unless they've got a perfect guard, or they've got a ridiculous sized hand. I did try going for game in the Euros. Unfortunately, I didn't get a crit. I was hoping for a crit, but I didn't get it. If I'd crit him, that would have been the game, and then I could have gone to game 3, but unfortunately, I do look back and think I could have done better. But alas, what can you expect? Just trying to think of any other. Right, one thing I will say, if you want to run this build, always try and ride the Midnight Invader first. If you get them both in your hand, always go with that one first, because then you can call that a bird from the limit break later on. And the limit break does put a lot of pressure on your opponent, especially if you know they've not got the perfect guard. Which sometimes you will tend to do. If you've got the memory to remember all your opponent's drive checks, and you can remember them not seeing a single perfect guard, it's worth the risk, because if they had one, you can bait it out. If they didn't have one, then you're going to be hitting for a big number, because 4 units called out, it's going to be 12k to her, so she's going to be 22 on her own. If you've got a turquoise there, it's 31. Your opponent won't be guarding that anytime soon, because they would need at least 20k just to guard. And even then it won't be guaranteed, sorry no, 25 to guard, sorry, and then they need to add another one to make it a 2 pass. So yeah, one thing I would say though is I wouldn't use these two together, the soul swapping with Liquia, unfortunately, because of the lack of power. Even at 20k it doesn't help that much, and the worst part in my opinion about it is you won't get these attacks won't get through unless you hit a trigger, and that's because after she's attacked, and by that time the boost is irrelevant. So unfortunately that won't help. I actually don't think there is many more things I can explain here. Oh right, cross rides. A quick explanation on the cross rides. Basically, if you want to face the cross rides, I suggest you always aim to have at least a 6k that side. If you're going to have Midnight Invader there, if you're in this deck, this is okay. You want to have Midnight Invader there with at least a 6k. If you are not going to have the Invader and you're going to have something else in there, please make sure you've got at least a Tamer with a 7k. The reason I say this is because if you have that there is 18 on each side. If you've got 18 on each side against a cross ride and you hit a trigger, you can pass it to one of them sides, 23, okay? You do, because one thing you've got to remember